He says in the 42nd verse, Bahir drishtya cha samaya ristaya lokayet puman sukhe dukhe tata marshe harshe bhito samo bhavet. He goes on to further explain how a deathless state looks like. In other words, he wants to show the strategy following which one attains the witness state of eternity. He says, listen to it. The physical eyes gives external vision by which we get knowledge about things outside us. Therefore, one actually sees the outside world with the eyes. The word hatstaya means to see through the internal eyes of the mind and thereby gain knowledge. It refers to the internal vision. So, it is a knowledge which is to be gathered both by the external eyes and through the eye of the mind. How can we discriminate without physically seeing a thing? On the other hand, if one does not have the power of discrimination, then gaining definite knowledge by merely looking at the outside objects is not possible. Therefore, wherever one can get knowledge and sensation of different things internally and externally, one has to have a balance of vision. That is to say, the differentiation is due to the different names and forms. The physical object is complete in itself. There is no possibility of differences such as superiority or inferiority. The Atman, which is the same at the beginning and in the end, appears to be blamed for different kinds of things, but it is truly not so. In the same way, joys and sorrows, happiness and sadness, or fear are all changes, and they owe their origin to the support of objects of different names and forms. The Atman is beyond them and so does not experience all these things. By such a disposition, one should remain balanced without any change, is the meaning conveyed here. Happiness, sadness are all dharmas of the body. One becomes conscious of their relationship as witness of the body. But the Atman, which is always separate from the body as witness, has no connection whatsoever with them. Therefore, why should I have any communication with happiness, sadness, etc.? Whatever actions may take place with my body, or whatever changes such as happiness, sorrow may take place in relation to it, I or the Atma has no connection with it whatsoever. With such a determined strategy, one should give up the delusion that is stuck because of the connection as a witness. I am always equanimous. I am as I am. There is no change whatsoever. Therefore, with such a firm determination, one should give up the connection to all untruths in the nature of name and form. Later, in the next verses, he goes on to explain how we have to give up the connection to the root cause of happiness and sorrow, which is sama visham, neutral and adverse experiences. Rogapto chaiva bhogapto jayeva vijayepi cha shriya ayoge cha yoge cha labha labhe mritavapi. Shri Gajanan Prabhu says to Varinya, Asat Swanand is established due to appearances dependent on names and forms. Still, her roots are in Sat Swananda, which holds on to the life principle. Therefore, if we hold on to the form of Sat Swananda, then Asat Swananda will automatically melt away. Listen to the explanation regarding this. The incidental cause of the experience of happiness and sorrow is material enjoyments or suffering from diseases. They are related to the body and come according to one's destiny based on the past. They have to be enjoyed or suffered. There is no connection to the Atma at all. With such thinking, one should remain undeterred. Whether one gains victory or defeat, one should be firm and vigilant. In brief, however my life's action may be taking place based on destiny, but it has no connection to the complete and wholesome form of my Atman. The merits and sins related to it are not mine at all. I am the Atman without a beginning or an end, which is always whole and equanimous, and which is what the seeker should hold on to harmoniously. Then only can he be truly connected to yoga. He further says, change or indicators of change are of numerous types and demonstrate various characteristics. My Atman has no connection to it whatsoever. One should remain steady while holding on to such thoughts. How does the Atman, which has actualized this with determined practice, look at everything equanimously? Samo mam vastu jateshu pashyannantarbhi sthitam surye some jale vanno shive shakto tatanile. The gross, subtle, causal and greater causal are the four types of bodies, and the state of completion without any division is the fifth body, which is liberated and is of the nature of causal matter and is the Tvam stage. The body with ego is of four types, which is the Tat stage, and the completion of their form takes place into the void, that is Soham Brahma. It is a complete state. The union of Tat and Tvam stages with single-pointed mind is gained through practice of the eightfold types of superconscious meditative union. The meditative union is where dissolution of causal matter takes place through the experience of being in the glory of Swananda. That is understood as the Asat Swananda, Shakta Brahma, that is what is accomplished as actualization. The main feature of Karma Yoga is the experience we have about it. By giving up Asat Brahma in the form of names and forms, when one experiences the life support in the form of absolute knowledge of the divine as a witness and pursues the connection in that same state, is the nature of Jnana Yoga, which has been instructed by the word Yoga Manyam. The consciousness of Tvam stage is the witness of the external, while the consciousness of the Tat stage is of internal witness, where, setting aside all dualities, the witness of the Asi stage gets manifested. This characteristic is indicated by the words Samaya Drishyataya Lokayet. In this manner, Samam Mam Vastujateshu Antarbahistidam means the essence of Atma is whole everywhere and beyond all states of mind. This means that the Atma sees Saurabh Brahma, Ganesh and me. That alone is yoga. Later this is going to be elucidated further. One should understand the directions of Surya, Chandra, etc. and as auxiliary characteristics. In different places they come to be experienced as different power centers. They represent the eminence of Paramatman or the Supreme Brahma. Even though their lives may be due to my glory as the Lord of Swananda, they are parts of my power as Sat Brahma. Therefore, I am not considered different from them. Still, as far as the form is concerned, it is not possible in my state. They are established and create various kinds of differences, and in the end they get dissolved. But I remain as I am. The same explanation is being given in verse 45. Dvije hrude mahanadyam tirte kshetre aganashini Vishno cha sarvadeveshu tata yakshorageshu cha. Shri Gajanan Prabhu says, listen to what I have to say about actualization of Sat Brahma, brought about by following Jnana Yoga. Brahman is the auxiliary characteristic of an eminent personage. They may be in the form of a tank, a river, destroying all sins, or a pilgrimage center. Different kinds of eminent personage with powers like Vishnu and other gods have also been indicated. Thus there are different kinds of universes with different names and forms, different eminent personages who have all been created and established from particles of my power alone. Still they are all considered a support of Asat Brahma. As such, I, who am the bearer of life, am of the nature of witness alone. Understanding it in this manner, there is no possibility of being conscious of any of the differences. If a person's condition is steady in such a presence with equal vision, that is to say, beyond differences and non differences, and the vision is completely steady, then he can be called as one who has actualized yogic psychic powers and has knowledge of yoga. There is only the presence of a witness attitude in him. Therefore, he goes beyond birth and death and attains eternity. Gandharveshu manusheshu tata bhaveshu cha satatam mahiyah pashe soayam yoga viduchyate. In verse 46, Shri Gajanan Prabhu says, Varanya, listen patiently. The attainment of Swananda is possible only through yoga. The celestial beings, human beings, are all names of creations, as are the different birds and animals. That which is dual with name and form is subject to birth and death. But the Sat Atma, which is the life principle in all names and forms, is eternal, and there is no possibility of any change within it. In other words, since there is no scope for variety in knowledge, there is obviously an equanimity in outlook. Where life is unbroken and full, there is no possibility of death. And since there is no death, there will be no rebirth either. In this manner, equanimity in outlook becomes steady. All display of names and forms melt away. The disposition of Asat Swananda goes away, and only the absolute life principle in the eternal Sat Swananda remains. Then, with a little thought, what remains is the illusion of individual soul and supreme being, because when there is consciousness of the world of names and forms, the witness state is blamed upon me as being the life force of this world. It is in this context that I am considered the individual soul. But when the universe itself is considered illusory, then where is the question of its witness and the individual soul remaining? In this manner, when the harmonious connection of the essence of absolute and individual soul is broken due to absolute causation, only then the essence of supreme being remains. But that also does not hold good, because when the Atman of the universe goes away, then the witness too does not remain. The origin of the witness, that is the world, meaning the Atman in the body, too does not remain. Then, how can the Supreme Being principle, which is incorporeal life, remain? When the body has gone away, then even the incorporeal goes away. Therefore, the Supreme Being does not remain. Because the moment the Supreme Being assumes an incorporeal body, he becomes the blamed. In this manner, the individual soul and Supreme Being are removed from the Tat stage and Tvam stage, leaving only the Atman in the Asi stage. This is understood as the self-ascent of Brahma, but that disposition is through sequential study and practice. The Asi stage, which is basically an ascent, too goes away because when the Tat stage and Tvam stage gets dissolved, there is no foundation for the Asipada. In the end, only the Atman remains, and the bliss of the self, that is, experiences in the form of reverse ascent, whose root is the self-ascent Brahma, which too having gone away, the reverse ascent goes away, leaving behind the state of self by itself. Therefore, the glory of self-knowing is established as Sat Swananda. The seeker who has resolved to attain Saurabh Brahma through meditative union and yogic spiritual practices accomplishes it in the manner stated in the verse Suryo ya abheda buddhi. However, the form of self in Sat Swananda cannot be cast away by our disposition. Hence, the state of spiritual practice through Saurabh Brahma meditative union has been narrated here. The state of Shakta Saura Yoga, which is of the nature of Sad Sat Swananda Brahma, being relative to each other through determined harmonious connection with Saura Yoga, The Shakta Yoga can be accomplished completely, thereby, the Asatsvananda can be given up. Because of this, Saura Yoga is not established separately. Therefore, the life principle and the eternal nature go away automatically, leaving only the Satsvananda Brahma in its own self. How that too goes away and how it paves the way for one to experience the absolute glory of Swananda is being explained in the following verse. The form of the self and its place in the individual soul does not remain. The absolute remains established. It is due to it being beyond birth and death that it is known as Sat Swananda. Sri Gajanan Prabhu says to Varenya, the fourfold Deha and Dehi, with the glory of the state of Asat Swananda and Sat Swananda for support, which comes to you as a matter of experience, is because of the determined connection to yogic spiritual practice. In the same way, the power of actualization will also be experienced by you. If you get such psychic powers, then you will attain the complete state of Saura Brahma and will become a yogi in its true sense. In other words, till such time as you perform actions as ordained by destiny and are practical, you will remain a liberated soul while living. After listening to such knowledge about yoga, Varenya began to feel content and even joyful. With an attitude of gratefulness, he did namaskar to Sri Gajanan Prabhu and prayed to him to continue his instructions further. Notwithstanding, he narrated the whole process of spiritual practice for attainment of yoga. Firstly, after attaining the goals of Karma Yoga, one should proceed one's practice towards the attainment of Jnana Yoga. Among these two types of yoga, Karma Yoga leads to the actualization of Shakta Brahma and Jnana Yoga leads to the actualization of Saura Brahma. They have been described as Shakta Yoga and Saura Yoga from verses 41 to 46. We shall look into what Sri Gargya Maharshi had said in his commentary on these verses in the next audio.